What up, everybody? Why are the lights being weird? Hold on. There we go. What's going on, everybody? Hello, hello, hello. June was first today. Have fun one. What's going on? Jelly Crab, Tyke, Bad Tunes, Efrendo. Hello, hello. So welcome to Feedback Friday. Every Friday we give feedback. That's how it works. Pardon me, excuse me. So I'll show you before we get started. Before we jump into it, this is the Discord. Ping. And look, for some reason Lumber bot is being strange, but it is what it is. But basically, how does this work? For those of you that don't know and are just jumping in, maybe this is your first Feedback Friday, maybe not, I don't know. Basically, you post a piece of artwork or something, a game or whatever, make a post, you be very specific about the type of thing that you're trying to create, or if you're just after general feedback or what it is that you're looking for in terms of critique, and then you post it. And then on Friday, I go through the posts, and we as a community will respond to that, basically. And hopefully help you out, hopefully help you learn some stuff. But I always end up learning some stuff as well, because, you know, there's no pros here, just learning. We're just trying to learn. But hello, hello. What's going on, Linux? What's going on, Cat Cupcake Drawers? Hello. Technically, today's my birthday. Let's go, Bad Tunes. Happy birthday. Hype in the chat. You have to start streaming when I'm watching the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. Well, just watch the film. Enjoy. This will be a VOD for anyone. You can watch it live on... You can not watch it live. You can watch it after the live on YouTube. So, when you're going to be simulcasting? Yeah, I still haven't had time to set that up. So, I haven't figured that all out yet, because I'm not sure if OBS can do it easily, or if my internet can handle it. There's a lot that I need to go into, but I haven't set it up yet, is the easy answer there. Where can we join the Discord? Now the bot should work. Let's have a look. Streamlabs. Let's see if the bot's going up. Bam bam, Discord link. Should just be able to do that. And it should pop up, but if it will, if it won't, it all depends on if the bot feels like popping up. Let me just find out for you here. Cloudbot is on. There it is. There you go. Easy win. That's how you join the Discord, for those of you that don't know. Okay, so we're just going to jump into this, basically. Where did we get up to last time? So I usually have checked the boxes. So we're going to go off. We're going to go based off of where we were last time. Okay, so I think we were actually up to this Steam game. Let's see. We're up to this Steam game, I think, which is Eddie's, right? This is your game, Eddie. Super Choppy Orc. That's mine. I am here. Let's go. So I think that's where we're up to. So let me just get all of this downloaded, ready to go, and then we'll go. But how's everyone doing today? What's going on, Omen? How you doing? What up, Chiptune Kirby? How are you? What up, Chris? Welcome, everybody. Welcome. How's everyone's week been? It's the end of the week. Anyone got any cool plans? So let me just make sure I've got this. Need to find the email. I should have sorted this out beforehand, but, you know, planning, all that stuff, didn't do it. That's fine. Where is it? There's Eddie Nardo email. There's the key. Try not to post that in the chat. Games, activate a product. There we go. Confirm. Already activated. That's good. Now I just gotta Choppy Orc. Already installed as well. Have we played this? I don't know. There we go. I want to change my name here to Featherwalk, but it's key to my Google account. Oh, what a nightmare. What up, Dom? How you doing today? Plan, recover from work week, then work on game. Yeah, make sure you do get some recovery rest as well. You don't want to be going into that all tired and frustrated. But I hope your work week wasn't too bad and you can recover quickly. Well, here we go, folks. Super Choppy Orc. This is where we're starting. In fact, this isn't where we're... In fact, it is where we're starting. I think the game was teased last week, but not played because of the embargo. Got you, got you. DK, what up? Down South Mag. Hola. In which channel I could submit? In the feedback channel, my friend. Make sure it's in the Feedback Friday. Make sure it's in Feedback Friday. How can I submit me game? Make sure it goes in Feedback Friday, folks. Look, if you're on the Discord, right? You go on the Discord, we have a feedback section here. You go here, Ding, 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 ding. You make a post. You add your game or your artwork or whatever it is that you want feedback on. Be very specific about the type of feedback that you want to look for. Click the post. Make sure you click the Feedback Friday little tag. If you've posted something and you haven't clicked Feedback Friday, just right-click your post, edit tags, and then add it. If you can't edit the tag, let me know. Change your name to being the same as the Discord. Let's go, Mini. Thanks for subbing, Samuel. Appreciate it. So, here we go. Let's just jump into this. So we're gonna look not just since this is Eddie. You made the game solo apart from the character art, music, and translation. Any feedback is welcome. I think I had a brief look at this off stream because obviously you sent me an email, so I like quickly looked at the Steam page before downloading it, and I think there's definitely some things that we can give feedback on. I obviously haven't played the game, so I'm not going to be talking about the game yet until we're playing it. But there was definitely something about the store page that needed some, that I think we could use feedback on. But anyway, what the heck have I done? There we go. So we're in the game. Let me turn the music up a bit so I can hear it. Can you folks hear it? Let me know if the audio is good. I don't have like audio monitors and stuff. I haven't got like a setup for that. Maybe one day. Check the options out. General option, the screen shake, yes, yes. Full screen, yes. Streamer mode. Facecam inside this box will not block gameplay. That's a pretty cool little feature there, isn't it? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that just because my face stays here, pretty much. But that's pretty cool. Pretty cool little feature. Okay, let's play. Super Choppy Oak. Okay, it's a platformer. I feel like I don't deserve the second monitor. You can have it. It's a platformer. I'm making a platformer, so let's check and see if the platforming is on par with what is expected with platforming these days. Do we have jump buffering? So for those of you that don't know, jump buffering is where you can jump before you touch the ground and it will buffer the jump. And it seems like there is jump buffering. There we go. There we go. Jump buffering check. Do we have coyote timing? Coyote timing is when you run off a platform or a cliff or something and you can still jump. It seems that we also have coyote timing. So that's good as well. Look at that. We have the platform checkpoints. That's good, Eddie. Feels good actually. Is it like controller based or what's the best way to play this? Controller or mouse and keyboard? I do prefer I do prefer controller usually with these types of games, so let's see how we get on. Controller, okay, I'm controller in it. Yeah, the jump feels nice. You can change in midair. How do I get up there? Okay, so we have an axe which is to throw, like lumber. Who's this? We got a babe. You can bounce on your axe. Okay, I understand. Mechanically very simple, which is good. Because that means you don't need to do anything with that. We can just bounce up there. The mechanics are nice. I think we played... Did we play it or did I just play it off stream? I think I played Choppy Oak. I think it was Choppy Oak that I played. Yeah. I never took the time to realize your name is Soul. It's my surname. My surname is Soul. Like family name. Marge, what up? Hey Soul, 10 minutes late, but now I'm here so you can calm down. I was calm, don't worry. You don't gotta stress, folks. You're all good. Whoa, I don't know what I did there, but I somehow did it. Do I need to get these little guys? I don't know. I'm just gonna get them anyway. Choppy Oak is my old game that this is based on. Yes, I think someone said that when we talked about it last time. Feels nice. Okay, so this bounces back. Interesting. I just kill this guy. Yeah. I really like the axe. The axe is nice. It's a nice mechanic, you know? Like it feels good. To think about where to place the axe and where to place the axe and stuff. What up, Mio Staff? How are you doing today? Okay, how do we get past this? Okay, so we have to go left there, but I want to kill this thing. Okay. Oops. Whew, that was quick. Easy. Hey Soul, been a while since I joined one of your streams. Also, no more Twitch. My bold books. No, we've streamed on Twitch twice this week. I do hope to get the dual casting, like simultaneous casting working. This is just Feedback Friday. This is just Feedback Friday, so this is just what we do. On a Friday, we stream on the YouTube, but in the future, it will be YouTube and Twitch. So you'll still have your bold books, you'll still have your emotes and all that stuff. You do uploads of this stream too? Yeah, this stream is automatically uploaded on Twitch. So as soon as this stream ends, it's... What the fuck? As soon as this stream ends, it's on YouTube. So that's why we switched to YouTube in the first place, because it's easy. It's easy to just take it and put it on the... Ah, I forgot that thing. Wow, that's annoying. Do I have to go all the way around? You actually die. Been waiting for this all morning. What a pudnick. Also on YouTube? Yes, it will be on YouTube, yeah. You can stream to both places, hopefully, yeah. Ninja skills, yeah. Maybe not the best ninja. There should be a section here, just level design-wise. I don't know if it's possible. But when I go here, right, and that it's basically death if I can't collect that, the chest. Like, if I can't go from here all the way over to there, I mean, maybe you can. Okay, you can. That's okay then. Ignore. Ignore. Know what I said. Focus. Now, I'm not going to play this whole thing, obviously. Okay, so those things disable the ghost. That's a good way to show that. I'm not going to play this whole thing, because, I mean, that would take all stream, probably. That's funny, actually. Do you have to wait for your axe to get to you? No. I like that it's screen-based, by the way. Like, oh, I should have went up there. So now I just have to kill myself. Okay. I like that it's screen-based, like Celeste, where you don't have to, like, repeat the puzzles. Oh, no. How do I get up there, then? Can you just... Nope. Ah, okay. See. See. How do we get over there? This way, this way, this way. No, come on! Sticky. What up, Sticky? That was your fault, Sticky. I'm going to blame you for that one, okay? That one was my fault. And sorry, you can't actually see the gameplay. So I think we'll end it on this level. But overall, I think the mechanic is cool. I think the level design... Can I kill this thing, by the way? No. I think the mechanic is cool. I think it's very unique. I've not played a platformer like this. I've never played a platformer like this. Oh, I should have kept it on there. Okay, hold on. The level designs are cool. It's like a puzzle platformer, right? It's like a puzzle platformer because you really need to think about where you're using the axe, and I like that quite a lot. Oh my goodness, look at this. Look at this crazy. Oops, jump into the spike. Puzzle / precision. Yeah, puzzle precision platformer. I've never actually seen that done very well. I'm not gonna lie. What was the last puzzle precision platformer that I've played? I don't actually know. But this is a really good one. Come on. Like my favorite puzzle platformer is what's that one where you play as a knight, a king? What's that one where you I want to see if I can cheese this, by the way. probably can't because the levels have been so well designed so far. But if I go here, for example, if I go underneath it, will it hit it? It doesn't hit it. It doesn't hit the skull. Bad level design. Shovel Knight, is Shovel Knight a puzzle platformer or is Shovel Knight just a platformer? Hold on. This is this should be possible. I think you should be able to hit the skull from here, but you can't. If you can hit enemies backwards, you should be able to hit skulls backwards. Shovel Knight's just a platformer. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking, yeah. Come on! Okay, we'll end on the... I keep saying we'll end on the next level, but like each level is so fun that... Imagine that it hits and it comes back immediately. Exactly. Oh! Okay, that's where we'll end it. That's where we'll end it. That's where we'll rage quit. Okay? This level is more precision than puzzle. Yes, I do feel that. And that's going to be the balance, right? So overall, I would say this. Rage quit, yeah. Overall, I would say this. I feel like a little bit of story could be told through a Wario Land inspired game similar to Pizza Tower. That would be kind of cool. I've never actually played a Wario Land game, so probably not the best for me to make that sort of thing because I wouldn't have got the slightest clue. I haven't even played Pizza Tower. I wouldn't have the slightest clue where to start. But let's take a look. The best feedback with this game is that the fact that Soul couldn't stop playing it. I actually think, gameplay-wise, right? You're sweet. I think gameplay-wise, you're sweet. The levels are fun. They are more-ish, obviously, as we've seen. I think the problem doesn't lie... It's not necessarily a problem. I think the biggest issue that I have with this game, right? So let's just talk about gameplay first. Gameplay is great. The biggest issue that I have with this game, firstly, the biggest things that I like about this game, unique mechanic, and it's actually a fun puzzle platformer. Puzzle/precision platformer. I like both puzzle games and I like platformer games. So I think in this instance, it works well. Some people say you have to be careful about like the balance with that because wasn't there like a GDQ or something like that? Not GDQ. Not GDQ. What's the thing? Game. Not GDC. Who's the person that makes videos on games? Who's the person that makes videos on games? But basically, they're making a puzzle platformer. It's the magnet one. GMTK, that's the one. Yeah, GMTK. GMTK spoke about like puzzle games and precision platforming in the same genre. And the thing with that is you have to be careful about the balance between puzzle and precision platforming. Untitled Magnet Game, yeah. Because some things, like, puzzles are great, right? And the puzzles in this game, when you're thinking about it, that's fun. But the pacing, right? The pacing of the game changes real quick when it's precision platforming type level, like that last one. Like, the challenge of the last level, right? The challenge of the last level was the precision platforming. And that's such a different feeling to the challenge of the puzzle level before that. Because with the puzzle level, it's like, the process of playing that level is you look at it and you maybe like try some things out in your head or you just go for it anyway. And it's like, what do I do? Oh, let's try this. Solved. Right? That's cool. And the feeling is, woohoo, I solved it. Whereas the precision platforming one is, I know what to do. I can't do it. Let's do it over and over until I get it. So you don't have the same, like process per level. And I think that's the hardest thing. the mindset, exactly. There's too many different mindsets required for different levels. So I think the hardest thing with a game like Super Choppy or any game which is platforming and puzzle is getting that balance right, where I actually think that's really cool that you have a balance to it where one of them isn't so puzzle based. Because if you have too many puzzles in a row, for example, Baba Is You, right? Baba Is You, I'd say, is probably one of the greatest puzzle games of all time. But man, does it melt your brain, right? I've not finished Baba Is You, and it's because I got to a level where I just got so stuck on one of the puzzles, I just couldn't make any progress. So I think that balance is actually quite cool, and I think you've got a nice, I think you have a nice balance there. I think you have a nice, but I'd obviously have to play the rest of the game. I'd have to play the rest of the game in order to give more feedback on how that balance is, you know? Lumber having a Wario-esque moveset could fit in being angry about the dragon. Again, I don't know anything about like Wario games, so I can't comment, unfortunately. What up, Waters? How you doing? King, Knight, Wizard? Knight, King, Wizard? What are we talking about? Nine Doc. Wouldn't you think having a very precise platform would punish the player to even try new ways to solve the puzzle? Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Omen, yeah. It could. It could definitely do that. Let me just get the live chat. There we go. It could, yeah. If that's the thing, and that's what GMTK mentioned. But I don't think that's a huge problem with this game because it doesn't feel too precise. There are some levels which are a bit more precise, and it's like, oh my goodness, you know, like why did I die there? I'm gonna have to do it again just because of the thing. Wouldn't you think having a very precise platforming would... Waters, I think you're maybe a little bit behind. I don't know, your levels coming in, your messages are coming in a bit late. I think you might be like starting the stream from the start or something. Wouldn't you think having a... sorry for repeating the message. Don't worry about that. You can... If I miss a message, this goes for anyone. If I miss a message, feel free to send it again. I totally agree with the balancing. I don't think I struck a good balance on some of the later levels. Interesting. I'm looking forward to playing some more of it and getting a feel for that. But I actually think gameplay-wise, it's very polished, you know? It's very polished and the mechanic feels fun. I think the biggest issue is actually your marketing for it. And this was the first thing that I noticed with this game. And when you send it to me, my first impression for it... I'm going to give you my honest first impression because I think anything else is not worth me telling. You know, I'm not going to lie to you. My honest first impression was that it was a kid's game. It's a kid's game or kids-focused game. And all of that I got from the Steam page. So let me show you. This is the Steam page, yeah? Super Choppy Oak, and it's this. Your banner image doesn't really match the game, in my opinion. Your banner image is the first thing that I saw, and I was like, well, what is this? And then I looked at these images, these screenshots, and I'm looking at the gameplay, and I look at the gameplay, and I'm like, by the way, nice speedrun tactics. Different mechanics throughout. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, look, this is fast-paced. Yeah, it's colorful and cartoonish, but it's fast-paced, colorful, and cool mechanics with puzzles. But this gives me, like, Clash Royale, almost. You know? This gives me, like... Not saying Clash Royale is a kid's game. I mean, it kind of is, but... It gives me, like... I don't know. It just gives me, like, kids' cartoon show or something. So what else could you do? How could you solve that? Especially because there's nothing going on in the background. Not that you always need something going on in the background, but what is the point? Okay? That's what I'm going to ask you. This is the question I'm going to ask you. What is the point, right? What is the story of this game? What is the vibe that you want to go for? What is the point in the game? What's the A to B or the story, the A to B to C conclusion type thing? Like, what's going on here? Because the vibe that I get from the game is, when I'm playing it, it's very much like I'm trying to get from one level to the next, and I'm trying to like progress it. I'm trying to, I don't know what the story essentially is. Maybe I skip past something like that, and maybe it doesn't need a story. But one thing that it reminds me of kind of like a retro game. Okay, hold on. There's the Steam key for if anyone wanted to steal it. You can't now, by the way. But give me a sec. Right. Possibly get rid of the kawaii logo, show more of a battle pose and a sketch-esque design. Yeah, something maybe like something a bit more like in the middle of the action type stuff is what I'm thinking. Like, show him chopping. Well, he doesn't really chop. He throws the axe, right? Doesn't he? Like, we don't really see him chopping anything. So maybe something more like, what does it look like? Orc-like, right? You could still go with a similar design. Maybe something a bit more like serious. Obviously not angry, but like whatever. And then, you know, it's hard to think of that. Like, this is what I want to show you. Let me show you this. Let me have a look. A bit more rugged, a bit, yeah, just less childish, I think, because I don't think it is necessarily childish. And the thing that I want to show you is old NES game, like game boxes, game box art. Like this. So check out this old box art, yeah. Like Bubble Bobble. That obviously looks childish. You know what I mean? You're absolutely right. I was a few minutes. Yeah, I thought so. But things, look at Super Mario. Like it's like an action pose, even though it's still like cartoonish, and it all is kind of aimed at kids, you know? So it just depends where you're going with it. But notice how it's action pose like, you know? I think you could go in a similar direction with Super Choppy Orc because it is kind of inspired by that type of thing. I mean, look at Super Pitfall, for example. What a badass box art. I used to love just going to game stores and just looking at the box art. You know, that was like one of the best things to do. You don't even need to play the game. But I think you could take a lot of inspiration from some of these to help improve your the marketing of Super Choppy Orc, because I think that would be what lets it down, in my opinion. It wouldn't really be the gameplay, because what I've played so far, and it hasn't been a huge amount that I've played so far, but what I've played so far is if it's fun, you know, it is fun. Like, look at Frogger. Everyone knows what Frogger the game looks like, but look at what it actually looks like on the box art. Like, why you would want to pick this up, right? And that's the entire thing for the Steam capsule image as well. Your Steam capsule image is how you get people interested in your game. So if it's coming across like Clash Royale kids, you're not really I don't think you're necessarily drawing in the right people for the game. In my opinion, anyway. It definitely isn't like super appealing, but the game is appealing. So I'd have a look at some of these and just be like, oh, sick, we can take some inspiration from this, you know? Unless they I think it's a bit too late for the name now, because the game is out, basically. The game is out, but I think you could probably go in something like this direction. Let's try and do something like that. Copy this image. Then go something in this direction. Like, obviously you have just a static orc going on there. I think Lumber Story, the giant side of burning. I haven't worked on Lumber Story in a little while, but I have written it all down. I'll get back to that at some point. But I probably wouldn't change it at this point either. You know? Like Super Choppy Orc. Any suggestions of where to find a good capsule image artist? So I think the best thing that you can do is hire an artist, obviously. And I don't like any artist, not necessarily. I would be careful about hiring like a specific capsule image artist, because they'll have. It's better to just find an artist, you know, like just like a freelance artist. You don't necessarily need a specific capsule image artist, because they'll do a lot of different games as well, probably, if that's their specialist, and you'll end up with something which won't be super unique. And I think it has to stand out if it's your game. You know what I mean? It has to stand out. But there's definitely ways that you could improve that for this game, because the colors that you're using, they don't match the game at all. You know, they're super bright and saturated, whereas your game overall is actually quite low. What's the word that I'm thinking of here? Not mid. Quite a low key, basically. You have quite a low key game, which means there's very low values, very dark values. Yes, it's saturated colors. Yes, it's cartoony, but it's very low key. And this is quite like mid to high key with the blue, especially. Like this empty space is just annoying. And the second thing, not necessarily gloomy. I mean, I can see why you're saying gloomy because of the low. I just mean like low key. So if something is mostly dark values, I'd call that low key. Low value key is what I mean there. And if something is mostly light values like white, that's a high value key. And if something is a mixture of the both, then it's a medium value key, is what I'm talking about there. But I think going more in the retro style, avoiding the kind of mobile game look is what it kind of looks like. It kind of looks like a mobile game, kids game at the minute. And I think that will help the game a lot. To be honest, I think going for a more retro look there. I think look at something like Hoppenhelm, maybe. Like Hoppenhelm, the game. What the fuck? Is Pinterest like broken or something? What is going on? Hold on. SNES is the best inspiration, yeah. Like, let's take a look at Hoppenhelm, because I think Hoppenhelm has a similar vibe. And in fact, it has a very similar vibe. Hoppenhelm has a very similar vibe. So this is the game Hoppenhelm, yeah? Where, if you notice, can't see it yet. Where is it? Oh, this is Hoppenhelm. Very low-key, dark, dungeon-esque with, like, pixelated graphics. Pixel graphics, yeah? And this is their, like, menu screen and title. Hold on. This is their menu screen and title, and, like, one of the first things that you see when you play this game. Like, look at that. It matches it perfectly. Matches the tone perfectly. There's enemies in the background. They're just subtle. It's just enough. There's enough danger in there with the... What's it called? The lava bubbles. Hoppenhelm looks... It does actually look like a nice place. Not this Hoppenhelm. That looks like a demon. But the actual Hoppenhelm place that we found on Pinterest, where actually is that? Hoppenheim. Oh, this is Hoppenheim. Hoppenheim, Germany. Yeah, it looks nice. The buildings look like those beer girls. What are they called? Beer girls. Beer killer, like beer killer girls. There probably is a big beer killer place, right? Transylvania to some extent. So yeah, exactly. It does look very Transylvania-esque. But that's what I'd say. So the second and the last thing that I'd like to talk about with Super Choppy Orc is this. So when someone looks at your game, the first thing that they'll see is this. They'll see the capsule image, because you watched Little Run More, like you said, and it was interesting. Yeah, it is interesting, Ryan. Pretty freaky. But the first thing that people will see with your game is this. You know, they won't even see your screenshots yet, unless there are some places in the store where they'll see screenshots, right? Like if we go to the store, whoa, Call of Duty's out, nice. Let's buy that. They'll see your capsule image. That's the first thing that they're seeing, yeah? And unless they're hovered over it, like we don't know what cruising near looks like, for example, down there, until we hover over it, and then we can see gameplay, you know? So that's why you have to be really, really careful about your game's capsule art, because that is the first impression that people are getting of your game. And if it looks off and it doesn't look high quality and it looks completely not showing what the game is like, you're going to have problems. You know what I mean? You're going to have some problems there. So I think that's the first thing. Second thing is people probably look at your screenshots, and your screenshots are fine. Gameplay is cool. The trailer is really good because it gets this. Last week we had some people show off their gameplay trailers and stuff. This is exactly how you do a trailer for Steam. You ready? This is how it starts. Check out this trailer. This is what everyone should do. Straight into the gameplay. This is what's going on. Now, I'm not saying you should never do like a story-based gameplay, but this is the one that people are interested in the most when they're looking at your game first. The reason is because they want to see if it looks like something they would play. And I look at this and I go, yeah, this is something I would play. It's a platformer. It's precision as well. It's precision. It's puzzle. Looks fun to me. The art looks nice. The vibe of the world looks nice. Yeah. So gameplay. Trailer-wise, 100%. You got that 100%. That's great. Capsule, we've already spoken about the capsule, and this is the second thing that I wanted to talk about. So, if I just read this out, it says, help Choppy Orc release his friends from their chest prisons, strike enemies with your axe or pin it on a wall to make a bouncy platform for Choppy Orc to jump on, utilize the different kinds of walls, each one alters the way you move through the level, spring up, dash forward, or float away. Who gives a fuck? Excuse the French. This, when I scroll down, this is exactly what should be in there. Super Choppy Orc is a thrilling 2D precision puzzle platformer that puts players in the shoes of an orc on a journey to escape monster-infested caves and rescue his friends. That's your tagline. That's exactly what your game is. The reason this is very, very good is because... The reason this is very, very good because it's telling me straight away exactly what the game is. Super Choppy Orc is a 2D precision puzzle platformer. And I will know immediately from that, okay, I like 2D precision and I like puzzle games. Sold, you know? Whereas he releases his friends from, I don't know who this orc is. I don't care about his friends. You strike enemies on the axe, I don't care. I don't know who the enemies are yet, you know? It's one of those things where it's like, in order to get somebody to care about something, you have to give them something that they already like. You know, like it's the same with like YouTube tutorials and stuff like that. You can't just start waffling about a little lumberjack story and be like, oh, this is the lumberjack and the dragon fried down the house. No, you have to be like, hey, look, I'm going to teach you loads of pixel art stuff that you're here for, but here's a little bit of story as well, you know? And that way people get emotionally invested in the story that you're trying to tell, and they're also getting some value, which is what they came for in the first place. The value that people are looking for in this page is, what is this game? Is it something that it looks like I could play? You know, and that all has to work together for your marketing of the product. But I think you did the hard part, right? I'm saying all of this and it's a lot, and I hope you don't feel discouraged by any of it, because you have done the hard part. You have made the game, you know? Solve a couple of these issues, move some of the text around. Like, this is great, right? This text is great for down here, because this is where people want to read more about the game. You know what I mean? This is the entire section where if people are really interested at that point, now they can read more about the game. And that's exactly where this text should be. I'd highly recommend checking out that Chris does marketing or something like that. Chris something marketing channel on YouTube, basically. They talk about all this kind of stuff with data, and it's backed by data as well. It's not just somebody waffling, you know, not just somebody waffling. They actually back it up with data about how people's retention on screens, because you only have about 5 seconds, right? You only have about 5 seconds to convince somebody to play your game. What up, Blue Paul? Maybe the logo could use similar design to the levels. Oh, that's a great idea, Jeremiah. Rugged and filled with vines and possibly enemies hiding in the letters. That's a really good idea. Yeah, maybe something like that, like a rugged rock textural look. That's a good idea. But if you're really struggling with trying to get that, hire an artist, because, and just be very specific about what you need, which is, I need this to match my game vibe, and I need it to be eye-catching to get people to click on it, basically. If you can get someone to click on it, you're good. They don't necessarily need to click on it because it's Steam. They can click on the name or whatever. But yeah. Yeah, Eddie's the creator of the game. Okay, we've spoken enough. We've spoken enough. I think that's it for Super Choppy Orc. Whoa, what the heck? Let us move on to the next one. But thanks so much for sharing. Very fun game, and I'll play some more, definitely. Fonts, yeah. Fonts are very difficult. Fonts are difficult. Branding in general is quite difficult, but it is also fun. So why not? Why not? Okay, so we've looked at that. Next up, we've got this. Next up, we got this character. Here we go. So somebody has posted that character. I don't have their name because it's blocked on here. But somebody's posted that character. It's a little pixel art character here. Changing up the pace a little bit from games to pixel art. Thanks for the feedback. I'll update the Steam pages next. Only if you think it requires an update. You don't have to do anything that I say. This is just one person's feedback, remember? Here's the pixel art that we're looking at. I think this is really nice. I think this is really cool. They didn't ask for any feedback in particular. They just asked for feedback. So let's have a look here. I really like the colors used in the way and proportions. One thing that we always see when people do figures or characters or whatever is their proportions just look all over the place. So I'm glad that I don't have to talk about proportions again for this one, because I think it's really good. I think one thing that looks maybe a little off, it just looks static, you know? I actually think the design of the character is great. I love the hair, I love the glasses, I love the way that you've done the shading. You've got lighting on one side, it's consistent, the style is nice. I just think the pose is just a little bit static, you know? If you could somehow, one thing to make a pose less static is just think of a triangle. Wide legs, you know, wide legs, some arms doing something. I'm using my mouse here, by the way, so ignore the quickness and the ugliness of this. But there you go. Immediately, just by widening the legs, it becomes more dynamic. Now, it depends on the character as well. This character maybe looks a little bit shy, and maybe that works for them. Maybe the kind of timid pose works like that. I don't know. It really depends. We didn't get much information, but that's the vibe that I'm getting. But overall, it's really cool. It's really cool. The second thing I think to think about is shading detail consistency. Like you have shading in the t-shirt and the pants and the hair, none in the face and none in the arms. Now that could be that actually is consistent, because it's like we don't shade skin. And that's my art style. And that's completely fine if that's what you want to go for, but just something to think about. Can you give a tip for a 1-bit game that I'm working on? It would really help. Yes, use only 2 colors. There's your tip. Are you in the UK? Yes. One sec, I need a drink. That's really cool. If you want to give us some more information about what you're trying to work on, what you're trying to achieve with this, then let us know. Let me just write this here. This is really cool. Nice tip, you're welcome. This is really cool. Love the use of proportions correctly and the overall vibe. Pose is a bit static, but it depends on the character's vibe you're going for. They come across quite timid, or like I guess timid. What else could we do? Spoke about this on stream. Boom. There we go. Okay, next up, let's jump. Where the heck are we now? Whenever there's 4 posts, it just goes mad. How do I upload a design if I want feedback for another week? Just straight on the feedback channel. No worries, Pudnick. What kind of drink you getting? Anyone snacking? I'm actually pretty hungry. I'm going to snack at some point. So, where are we here? So, next up we got Coco Gangster. So, we've seen this one. Next up we got Coco Gangster. We've seen a couple of these animations before. These are nuts. The last one we saw of this was crazy. Just had crazy animations and everything. It was really cool, actually. This is Coco Gangster. I think it's a cocoa bean or cocoa. I don't know how to say it properly, but I like it. I dig the style. I think it's really cool. I don't really have much feedback for this, because the reason I don't have much feedback for this is because the style that we saw last time from this, this just matches that. You know, it matches that style, and it's quite unique. Like, I've never seen a style like this before. Especially look at the shading, the colors used, and the character design. It is very unique. It has its own vibe. So I'm going to write that. It has its own vibe and is unique, matching the one that we saw previously. I like this character. There you go. Spoke about on stream. Next up, any tips or problems y'all see? Oh, hold on. Any tips or problems y'all see in this? I was just trying to learn it by drawing multiple use cases. So they were learning about the sprite shade tool. Sorry, shading tool. Yeah, in the brush you see a little import. You go request you set colors. Okay, so they were using the shade tool. I mean, I think this is nice. The sun is perfect, by the way. The sun, it's like you put all of this work in detail into this, and then boom. Nice sun. The sun is perfect. That's what I'm going to say. The sun is perfect. I think this is a nice study. I think this is a nice like practice of a new tool that you're learning. I don't really have any specific feedback. Sun looks like you. Thanks. It looks like faceplant, actually. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you were just trying out a new tool. You're just trying out a new tool, and it's going well. So that seems like you don't need any feedback. But nice artwork. The only thing missing is a UFO. I agree. Maybe something there. There we go. Missing a UFO. Lol. There we go. Everyone gets a UFO. There's always one UFO per stream. That's if you can spot the Soul Tunes UFO, then you're good. Okay, next up, let's go. Right. Candy Apple by Keith. Oh yeah. Let's go. Okay. Have a look at this. Struggle with shiny things. Who knows what I'm going to say about this? Who knows what I'm going to say if you struggle with how to do a certain thing? What is the number? There's one word that I'm going to say. And what is it going to be? Does anyone know? If you've seen the streams enough, add a new layer. No, that's multiple words. But nice try. Reference. That's it. Yeah, reference. Reference. If you struggle with literally anything, just reference it. One thing I want to say about this apple, firstly, is I get the vibe of shiny apple immediely from it. I think actually you've done a very good job of making the surface appear like sheen, like a glowing sheen. And the second thing that I want to talk about is it's not really a problem, but it does make shading harder, and that is white background. See this? This is a stark white background. And you'll find that when you look at the values, when you're working in a white background, it's really, really hard to balance values in a white background. I don't actually know why. I think it's just because your reference background is completely white. Whereas if you use a midtone, the appearance of white is much more like stark, and you can balance it more because you're like, oh, whoa, I shouldn't use that high of a white. You know what I mean? And you can balance your values a bit easier when you have a lower background, a lower value background. Doesn't mean that white or that high of a value is bad. It just can be difficult if you're doing like a study, right? Because when do you ever get a white background in nature? Not really ever. So secondly, that's the word, references. It's a candy apple, yeah. It is a candy apple, yeah, like a Halloween candy apple. What do they call them here? I don't know, actually, I forget. I think it's just candy apple. Apple on a stick. Just apple on a stick. But if you look at a bunch of references for this, which is exactly what the first thing that I would do is just get reference. I mean, this looks very similar to the reference that they're gathering. And this is the reference. This is actually it. This looks like the reference actually. This is it. This is the reference they got because it's got a white background. But look at the values, okay? Notice this is why it's hard to work on a white background, because it seems like this is lighter than it is, but it's actually pretty dark. It's actually pretty dark compared to the light. And the apple as well is actually very, very dark, you know? That's why it's hard to work on light. References should be the middle square and the art tips bingo. Yeah, it should be. Because it's in everything. It's one thing that I just talk about constantly. So reference. Talk about references. You're trying to make something shiny. Be careful about the bounce light as well. Because you have a highlight here, which is light. And let's just take a look at this. You have the highlight. So if I'll just take, this is how I would draw something like this from a reference, from a study, by the way. I would take down the shape in like a mid value. Maybe even a darkest value, because sometimes it's easier to add light, right? And then I would take on like the mid value or something and sort of add this. I'd probably start with the mid value, to be honest, and then add shadow. That's how I would do it. And then you try and keep in the shapes. Like, you don't have to be super quick about this. I might even just steal the value. That's fine, just because I'm just studying, right? It's just a study. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I would put in my lights. And I would block it all out. I would block all of this out into the way that it looks and appears on the thing. And then I would think more about the subtleties of this. Like if you notice this is very light on the top of here, then I'd start to do that. Obviously, this is not in pixel art. This is just digital, but the same principle applies. Doesn't matter the medium. It's the same as painting something, you know? Same as painting something, you block it out first with the values, and then you can start to think about the differences in value in the planes, right? Because if you notice this right here, this is a plane, and this plane next to it is not getting as much light. You know what I mean? And if you can start to block those things out and then get more subtle, like look, the top of this is a little bit lighter. The edge of this apple is actually the lightest here, and then it gets like fades out a little bit. And that's when you start to notice what the sheen is. The sheen is not a big block of something. The shininess of an object comes from a couple of things. It's coming from the reflections. You know, there's a lot of reflected bounce light on this. And it's coming from the gradient of light changing over the surface. Because if you didn't see a gradient, it would appear more matte. You know what I mean? It would appear like a matte object. And the fact that it's like, look at this one. This looks like a transparent glob. You know, this one's even more simple to make shiny. Strong highlights like we see here, here, and here, and clear planes. Are you UK or Texan? I'm definitely not Texan. I'm UK. So that's what I'd say. Spoke about this on stream. There we go. Subskin, yeah, subsurface scattering. There isn't that much of that in this. Subsurface scattering is when the light like penetrates thin skin. Like we talked about this, like thin skin or thin areas, and it makes it look red, basically, depending on what's underneath. I don't have a light. Hold on, I tried that last time. Like this. Like look at the gaps between my hands. See how that becomes red when there's a light on it? Without the light, nothing. With the red, it's also, you see it a lot in ears. Like you can see through the hole in my ear. That's kind of cool. But subsurface scattering is the light is scattering through and around, and it's highlighting the blood underneath. So you can see that my ear basically appears red. Because of the melted sugar skin. I actually don't know if it's melted sugar. I think it's like hard, right? Sorry for going on about Lumber's potential. No, you're good. I wish I knew that references are key earlier. I definitely made my art. Yeah, no, 100% Dio. I was exactly the same. I actually thought references When I first started getting into art, I thought reference was cheating. But it's not. Like, how are you supposed to know what something... You can't possibly know what a horse looks like if you've never seen a horse. You know what I mean? Like, right now, I couldn't draw a horse without reference. And the thing is, the more that you use the reference for the thing that you want to draw, then it just becomes part of your visual library in your head, right? It's like, if you ever seen... And if you have a basic understanding of the fundamentals of drawing, if you can draw basic shapes like circles, squares, spheres, if you can draw those basic things, and then you can think of what something looks like, you can break it down then into those basic things, and then you can draw anything, like Kim Jong-gi or whatever. Rest in peace, amazing artist. My mental image is so bad I can hardly do anything without... I wouldn't feel bad about that. I wouldn't feel bad about that. I've heard about horses being very hard to draw. Yeah, but it's the same principle as everything, right? And that's what I love about art. There are things that are much harder to draw, like hands, for example, right, are notoriously hard to draw, and it's just because they're complicated. But the thing that I love about art is actually you can draw anything. You know? You can draw anything if you understand the fundamentals. If you can draw a circle, if you can draw a dot, right? If you can draw a dot, you can draw another dot. And can you connect those dots? You've created a line. Might not be very good, might not match up very good, but you've created a line. If you can create a line, you can do another line and another line and another line, right? And then you can start to connect lines and they become 3D shapes, you know? And then you recognize that actually everything that ever exists visually is just basic shapes. Literally anything. And if you can learn the patterns around it, so for example, if we look at a horse, right? Like, I don't draw horses. I literally have never ever drawn a horse just because I don't know. I'm just not a horse person, right? But look at this. You look at that and you go, holy shit, that is super complicated. What do I do? But if you look at this thing, it's a rectangle, my dude. It's a floating rectangle. It's not floating, but you get the point. This is just a rectangle. Yeah? This is just a triangle, or probably more two triangles on top of each other. Triangle, triangle. Oh, look, triangle. Oh, look, rectangle. You know what I mean? Square. And that's how you'd get it in a 2D sense. So you'd start with something like that. You start with an understanding that it can be broken down into 2D shapes. Yeah? And then you transfer that into 3D shapes. It's just a bunch of bean shapes. Yeah, exactly. I find boxes a little bit easier to understand because when you go bean, you're like, and then you're like trying to shade it like a sphere. And if you have an understanding of what the sphere looks like in that shape, then it's easy. But a box is even easier because look, there's the plane. There's the side plane. There's the top plane. Top, underside, closest side. It's just which one is easier for you to visualize in a 3D space, basically. And if you can do that, then it just becomes about making it even more complicated, right? Because if we go, right, let's go bean shape. Okay, and I know I'm just tracing on top of this right now, but you would do this from observation, right? There's the bean shape. And then you go, okay, there's an arm which connects like triangle there. But it's actually also a bean shape. And then you can start to like map that out with shading and sketching. And you take your time, obviously, because it's not something you're going to do quickly. Single hand shape, boom, boom, boom. There we go. You got yourself a hoof. Give it some legs. Give it a head. It's a horse. But that's the point, right? I rushed that at the end, but you get the point. Everything can be broken down into basic shapes. Use reference, and over time you won't need to use reference if you look at anatomy, right? If you look at a horse's anatomy, which was going to help you a lot, even humans, anything like that. I mean, look at this. Someone has already done all of the hard work for you. Someone's already done all of the hard work for you. That's what a horse's basic shapes are. There you go, sorted. And you can look at something like this, which is going to help you out a lot. If you want those extra details, right? If you want to put those details on something like this, this is all you need. An understanding of the underlying anatomy. Because then you'll understand why there's ridges here. Well, why is there a bump here? You know, why is there a bump here and why is there a bump here? Well, it's because mofo got spikes on their back. No? Spike, spike. And now you know. And you'll just remember that. You'll go, oh, I need to put the spike there. I forgot the spike, you know? It's like, why does this curve around this way? Well, it's because their inside spikes are there. They're called ribs, but it's because their inside spikes are there. You can call them whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You're not a doctor. You are just drawing the thing. Know what I'm saying? Put in the muscles. Oh, so strong. Biceps. Put the love heart tattoo on. Easy. Basic shapes, my friends. Breaking things down. It's lovely. Next, let's go. Happiness is just basic shapes. It looks like a UFO. It's very, very true. Pixel art hands are hard, but it's really nice when you get them right. Yeah, I agree. Can you draw happiness? Yes. That's my answer. It's a lot of work, but it's so much to research. Yeah, it is. It's true. It's true. I mean, I've been studying anatomy, human anatomy for years, you know, and I am probably 1/1,000,000th of the way through, and I wouldn't call myself an expert on it at all, you know. It's just like some things I've picked up over time, or some things that I've practiced more than others, like proportions and all that rubbish. And I don't even think I'm very good still, because there's just so much to it. Like, look at this human. Right? There are just some things that I remember, like the clavicles are about that shape, you know, the traps, the trapezius muscles, the neck. Like, these are just things that I've remembered from drawing them. Like, the neck connects down here to the clavicle, the top, but there's also like a little one as well. It's not just one, it like also connects a little bit. And I don't know what that's called. I can't remember. But they all have names and stuff, and I did remember them at one point. But when you start to go through it, you just start to memorize it. Like the pectoral muscles, for example, they look more like this than anything. And this part of the pectoral connects actually underneath the arm. So if you imagine, like, underneath this, there's the rib cage, yeah? There's the rib cage underneath this, and there's the clavicle bone here. And that goes up towards the spine, towards the skull. And connected to this is the top of the arm, the humerus, and the radius and the ulna. Yeah? And the muscles on top of that, which is why it helps to study the skeleton, is because the muscles on top of that, they connect to the bones. You know, and if you can remember where they connect to the bones and how they overlap each other, then it becomes even easier. Because if you have a bicep, for example, the chest connects underneath the bicep to the bone, basically. And then you have the what's that called again? The deltoid, the rear deltoid at the very back, anterior, posterior, something like that. I can't remember. But then you have the bicep here, the tricep at the back, and there's like a little muscle here. I never know what that's called. I just remember that there's a little muscle there. And I think I've drawn this a little bit too big, because then the muscle comes out here to form you've got like a bunch of muscles in your forearm. I could never draw that. That was like my biggest weakness, was the forearm muscles, because they're just like, there's like 1,000,000 of them, which then connect to your hands. You know, and then you have the intercostal muscles underneath this area, which then goes into the what's that called again? Abs. What's next to the abs? It is the obliques. Do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, like, you just start to remember it all, you know, and you can put it all together, and you can draw. And this, I learned this because I wanted to draw superheroes. Basically, I wanted to draw superheroes. That connects to the hip. I'm actually very, very bad at the bottom half, because the superheroes that I was drawing, I just wanted them to look really, really strong. So I don't actually remember a huge amount about the legs, and that's something I need to study. I do remember like the general shape, but other than that, I don't know. You know, other than that, I don't know. And again, hands, that's something I kind of stopped at as well. So I have a very good understanding to draw just off the top of my head the top half. And that's why I need to continue to study, because I was studying the legs a little bit, but like the legs are so complicated. I think there's one band that goes like right the way down to the bottom of the knee here, and then the rest of them go like around here like that. And then there's one here. There's like one big one there. I need to remember that, basically. I need to remember that. But that's how you'd learn, right? That's how you'd learn it. You start with the skeletal structure and then just add muscles on top of that. Face is amazing. I know, it's perfect. Face is perfect. But I actually had an idea for a challenge to learn all of this. And maybe next year we'll do that challenge if you're interested. Maybe next year. Thanks for subscribing, Zora. Because I always mean to study it more, I just never have the time. Never have the time these days. But anyway, let's move on. Mio Staffer. Mio Staffer, let's take a look at your work. Kind of followed a step-by-step guide to make this. I'm curious as how to make the background better and how I can add a wind effect without having to animate. September anatomy version. Yes, that's actually it. I've had it planned for a long time, actually. I've had it planned for a long time. I have all of the prompts and everything ready. I was going to do it a couple of years ago, but I just never get around to it. New artists often start an illustration saying I'm going to draw Superman, having none of that experience, and they think they'll figure out in that one illustration. Yeah. That was my experience. That was my experience with trying to draw Spider-Man, because Spider-Man was the superhero that I wanted to draw the most. So I tried to draw Spider-Man. It didn't go very well. Figured out I needed to learn anatomy, and that's what I started doing. But it takes a long time. It takes a long time to master anatomy. And I'm definitely nowhere near there. But anyway, this is really cool. They wanted to know how they can sort the background out and how they can have an illusion of movement without animation. So, there's a couple of things you could do. Firstly, with the background, I think the clouds are a little like, they're a little jarring, you know. I like the this thing. What's this thing called? What are these called again? Bubble plane? Zeppelin. I like the Zeppelin, okay? The clouds are a little jarring, I think. They're kind of just blobs. They don't really resemble clouds too much. That's because Spider-Man is the GOAT and you're trying to apply human anatomy. Yeah, that is true. I do love Spider-Man. So maybe just something like when something is flying, when a plane is flying through clouds, what's the number one word that I'm going to say here? What's the number one word I'm going to say? Reference, my dudes. It depends on how fast the thing's going, right? Depends on how fast the thing's going. I am looking at reference now on Pinterest, basically. Okay, I'm looking at reference now on Pinterest, and they move pretty slowly, right? So they're not actually moving the clouds as they fly through them. So I don't think the clouds need to be really. They don't need to be like falling through them, you know. They don't need to be like trailing through them. But I think they shouldn't be like taking up most of the space either underneath them. Because scale wise, it just didn't look as right. So in my mind, I would draw probably like a couple of big clouds at the bottom here. And I would maybe have them like sort of touching them off of it, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like trailing through it, because you want it to look like it's like coming through the clouds almost, you know? You could probably do something like that. That looks kind of cool. They'd probably avoid being in clouds, yeah, because they don't want to get the turbulence and pop their balloon, right? But maybe I'd do something like that, and you'd have a couple in the background or something. maybe just give a slight indication that they're kind of near them or something with like a trail, because again, you're trying to achieve the motion without animation. Another thing that you could do is you could blur this thing. This thing is the propeller, right? The propeller on the back of this ship. You could blur that thing a little bit, give it some speed lines. Like, if in doubt, speed line it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, blur. Motion blur is how you achieve. Obviously, you're doing pixel art, so that's something maybe you can't achieve with 1 pixel, but maybe you could like dither. Maybe you could have like a dither pattern or something with 1 pixel or whatever, and that's going to give you the idea of like movement, you know? Blur is movement, right? If my hand is static here, there's nothing. It looks, you can see all of the hand, you can see everything. I'm going to show you this real quick. I'm going to take this image. I'm going to take this image of a Zeppelin, not this image. You know what I'm saying? I always say that. I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to take this Zeppelin. You know what I'm saying? And I'm simply going to blur it. Filter, blur. I'm just going to motion blur it. Not that way. That way. That way. Simply going to blur it. Backwards. I'm going to blur it like that. Okay? And then I'm going to mask it out with a soft brush. But if I do something like that, do you see now all of a sudden this thing looks speedy? You know what I mean? This thing looks fast, fast, fast. But that's an exaggeration, obviously. This is an exaggeration of the effect that you're trying to achieve with some simple dots in dithering. You know? Some simple dots in dithering and maybe some trails of clouds and a little bit of work on the composition with the clouds, because before they were just kind of blipped around everywhere. Blip, lol. That's funny because it's a blip, right? If you do that, you'd be fine. You'd be sweet. But looks really cool. Looks really cool. Love the colors. Love the form of it. Shania spoke about on the stream. Go. That's a fast blimp. Super fast. Super fast. Needs UFO. Yes, it does need. In fact, you could probably just turn this into a UFO. Tiny flag flying back would show movement too. Yeah, you could even have the alien on the top that controls it, like holding their hands out, and this alien's got like long blonde hair, and it could be like their long blonde hair. So there's a lot you could do. But a flag would work probably better than that. Right, next up. What is the Hindenburg? I don't know what that is. Run animation. It looks funny, says this person. Okay. Okay, interesting. Okay, so this person has a this person has a animation for us to look at. Pardon me. The one Zeppelin that exploded in New York. Yeah, no, I don't know anything about that. Don't bro me. I'm uncultured. I only draw superheroes and UFOs. Come on. I don't know about these things. So this animation is a run animation. I think one thing that looks off about it is the Quagmire head. I was literally just about to say the head movement. It's like giggity, you know what I mean? Like giggity, giggity, giggity. Like it's not, there's no constant motion there. It's just kind of like rolling back. Some more constant motion there would help. I think there's like something on their t-shirt. It's kind of hard to see. Like I think their left arm, I think it's their left arm. Their left arm is like no sleeve, and their close arm is sleeved. I actually don't think the run is too bad. I think it's just the head, actually. I think if you fix the head movement, give it a little bit of a bob, right? Because the foot is like going up once. Check out my run animation tutorial. Do I have a run animation tutorial? Or do I just have a walk? Can't remember if I ever made a run animation, actually. Do I have a run animation? I have the run. Do I have a run animation tutorial? I don't think it's coming up at the right frame. No, me neither. Still not finished the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles film. I also don't think it's coming up at the right frame. The legs are pretty, yeah, the legs aren't bad. And I think actually the top half isn't that bad either. I think the arms are a little strange just because you've got one arm which is very different to the other. And that looks just a little off because you can't really see the front arm passing the body because it's the same color as the body, right? So you don't get that idea of it passing the body. But the other one stands out quite a lot because it's just skin, right? So I think you either need to give them both black arms or give them both skin arms, and that'll help it read a little better. And the third thing is fix the head motion. If you're really struggling with animation, I recommended this book called Animator's Survival Kit or something like that. Survival Guide. That basically, all of my animations, everything that I've learned about animation comes from that book and reference, basically. And you'll see that you can literally just type in run cycle from Animator's Survival Kit, right? And this will give you a bunch of different pointers when looking at a run cycle. You know, so I'd recommend this. I'd recommend looking at this because this book basically breaks down all of the animations that you'll ever need, ever, basically. And you can look at that. And the book is very, very in-depth, right? The book is super in-depth in that, like, it doesn't just give you the formula for one. It describes when and why things change. You know, like why a character's run will look different to another character's run, you know, depending on their body weight, depending on how hasty they are, their posture, you know, how old they are. So that's something you need to think about. And that's why I definitely recommend the book, you know, because, yeah, you might, even my video on the walk animation, which is basically just this walk cycle, by the way. It's basically just this walk cycle, but simplified in my own way. That is the bare bones of a walk cycle, right? Like, notice how different all of these characters walk in these examples that people have made, right? You can do a bunch of different animations, bunch of different things. So I recommend just get the book. I mentioned it in the video for a reason. It is the best resource for animation in general. So get the book. I have this one. It's great and hella thick. It is thick. It's like that thick. It's like that thick, full of animation stuff. But it's very, very useful because if you come across something that you need to animate, you come across something that you need to do, it's in there, right? It's got bipedal, it's got quadrupedal, so like cats and like dogs and all of that stuff. It's very, very useful. I've read it. I haven't read all the way through it, but I've read it and I've like went through it and drawn through it, and I learned a lot when I did that. So would recommend if you're into animation. We've already seen these next ones, but I'm just going to go through them again because they're cute. Faceplant characters, love them. Next up, Mario. Okay, Jad with the elephant Mario, thick. I don't know what feedback they're looking for here, but it is funny. Not sure what feedback you're after. It's just funny. Okay. Next up, Mio Staffer again? Mio Staffer again with a different blip. Used a step-by-step guide for most. The two rightmost ones, so I'm guessing the buildings here, were made without the guide. Looks cool. I don't really have much feedback to give on this because you're following just a guide. But the fact that you've been able to follow this guide and then create your own designs based on what you've learned, especially this one, I'd say, like this one looks very, very unique compared, like this one kind of just looks like this one, but green. You know what I mean? That one just looks like that one, but green, which is cool, but it's not as creative using the style. But the fact that you've made this one, this triangular looking one, just knowing the style that you've been working with shows that you've been able to learn exactly how this person has created the style, and that's the important thing. You don't just want to copy something, but you want to learn why and be able to break it down and apply it. So the fact that you've done that shows that you can do that, which is really cool. I want to make a cool simplistic game about a waffle with arms and legs, but I don't even know where to start in the art space. Do you know any good video courses of simplistic pixel character art? I think just start, Jeremiah. I've got some videos on pixel art characters and stuff. That might help a little bit. We've got a character design video. That might help a little bit. But I think just make something and ask for feedback. That's probably the best thing you can do. Don't overwhelm yourself too much with knowledge. If you've never done anything art-based before, the best thing that you can do is just try and have fun with it. Just try and get creative and have fun with it. Don't worry. Don't have any expectation, right? Don't have any. I probably wouldn't even look up reference of anatomy first, because if it's your first ever characters, you just want to have fun with it, man. You don't want to be overwhelming yourself with too much information. Like all of the things that we talk about in Feedback Friday and stuff, this is just if you're trying to improve and if you're trying to get to the next level or what you might need to look at next. But the number one piece of feedback that I can give literally anyone, it doesn't matter what level that you're at, is just have fun with it, because you will improve. If you were to never get any tips ever, right? If I was to never, ever, ever do Feedback Friday and you were to never seek any tips, you would improve over time. Time is the best thing that you can do without even consuming anything. You just working on something and having fun with it, you will improve. Like, it will get better. It's like if you've ever worked a job, right? I work a job now where I basically look at boxes and there are numbers on the boxes. When I first started this job, I was terrible at it. Now I'm pretty good and I memorize some of the codes for some of the boxes where I know where they're supposed to go, right? Okay, cool. There's someone who's worked there for 10 years, right? There's someone who's worked there for 10 years and they know basically everything. There's no such thing as an unskilled job, and art is very, very skilled. So you put the time in, you will improve. The best thing to put in time in is fun. Fun. So I'd say, Jeremiah, you can look at a couple things, but do not overwhelm yourself. These are the two tips. Don't overwhelm yourself. Have fun with it as much as possible. Don't set any expectations. I don't want you to be looking at fucking, excuse the swearing, I don't want you to be looking at Hollow Knight, for example, right? I don't want you to look at Hollow Knight and go, my character needs to look like Hollow Knight level quality. You know? You don't need to be doing that, because you are then going to be, you're competing with people who have years and years of art experience, and it's your first ever character. You know, this is a good first character. There you go. Take this character. It's called Smile Man. It's killing your creativity. Oh no. There's not much reason in progress if you don't enjoy the progress. Exactly. And honestly, make the game without much animation first. A stiff waffle can still be a fun waffle. Yeah, true that. Plus, you'll probably find out that the animations that you think you need, you don't need. Like, I remember when I first started working on Faceplant, which was Lumberjump at the time, but when we finally got the Faceplant animations in, there was an animation, like there was like a wall bounce animation where the character would like push off the wall and turn around and boom, boom, boom. Like, it was not necessary at all. You know, it made it actually feel worse. It made the gameplay feel worse. So make the gameplay, especially with games, like make the game fun and then polish, you know? Make the game fun first. Next up. Okay, just looking for general improvement tips. Happy with the piece overall, but just looking to get better. Proportions. Next. Overall, that was pretty fast. But compositionally, this is cool. Very cool placement of the character. This is Jinx. Yeah, it seems to be Jinx. Proportions are pretty good. The arms seem a little strange. This arm being like very, very straight to me doesn't read as an arm because you can't see like elbow joint anywhere. Even when an arm is straight, I can't even show you my arm because it's so long. But even when an arm is straight, you still have an indication of forearm and upper arm, you know? But this just being one flat straight thing, it kind of looks like a sword or something like that. And this arm doesn't look too long as well, proportionally. Like if I was to put that down, if I was to draw that where that goes, it might not be quite right. The long arm of the soul, exactly. Reference the Jinx versus Echo fight. Got you, Bakes It. But overall, it's really cool. Your composition is nice. Your shading is very nice, especially on the face. Like, that's solid pixel art right there. Really, really good. But I just say be careful about the silhouette of the arm. That doesn't really look like an arm. Especially because you've got these long, the long hair next to it as well. The back arm, I couldn't the bend in without it looking weird. Maybe it doesn't need a bend. Maybe it just needs like foreshortening. You know what I mean? Like maybe it needs to get thinner or thicker at some point. Like I said, if you look at, let's have a look at. Is there a reference for this? There's probably a reference, right? There'll definitely be a reference because it's Jinx and everyone has drawn Jinx. Like, were you using a reference for this? But let me just show you this, I guess. This isn't exactly what I'm talking about, but notice how the arm, even when completely straight here, it's not actually just completely straight. Like I said, there's the upper arm and then there's the forearm, which... Because the way it looks, the reason it looks like that is because you have, again, the humerus and then the radius and ulna bones. And that's what you're seeing there. And that's why it's so important to have an understanding of underlying anatomy, not just the muscles, but the skeletal structure as well. That's going to help your understanding of how something is drawn. Anatomy is super important. You have it if you want it. Just post it in the, you put it in the post. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the arm is, the arm even looks weird on there. What the fuck? This artist, look at the length of the arm here. That looks mad long. Is it? I think it's because they're like bent. I think it's because their back is here and it's not like clear. But you still kind of have the thin shape. It's very subtle here, right? It's very subtle here, but you can get away with that because it's high quality. It's high res. You can get away with that. But you still have the arm shape there. Still have that shape. It's just that in pixel art, you obviously can't get the same subtlety, so you've just gone like that. But that just makes it look worse. You need to try and get that subtlety in somehow. You know? Plus there's a bracelet. Yeah, there's a bracelet on which could help break it up as well, maybe. Probably a stretch frame. Probably, yeah. Probably a stretch frame. There's probably some animation in there going on. But yeah. Same thing here. Bing. But I think you've actually done a really good job to translate this shape. Like that's what I'm most impressed with your piece here, is the fact that you've been able to translate this shape into pixel art. Like that's actually really impressive because that's really hard. That's actually a really hard thing to do, and you've done a great job there. Like look how good this looks, everyone. Look how good that face shape goes. It's literally 1 2 3 4 pixels for the eye, but you've nailed it. Very, very good. The face happened by accident and I was like, oh, it worked. That always happens with me. Always with pixel art. Pixel art is like a discovery, right? Sometimes. Okay. But very good job. Smear and stretch frames are pretty funny. Yeah, they are. Definitely makes sense. Well, I appreciate you sharing. It's a really cool piece. And again, compositionally, proportionally, you're doing good. Just be careful with the straightness. Pixel is challenging, but always fun. I agree. We've already played Run More. That was hype. Let's give it a look. What was someone asked a question? Any tips? There it is. Christy Bear Design said, any tips for getting smooth lines when drawing small kawaii characters 100 pixel? Is it a brush issue or just a size thing? Smooth lines. Okay, let's go. 100 pixels. It will be interesting to see how Little Run will be trying. We actually played it. We played it last week. So, smooth lines. I mean, 100 pixels is kind of pixelated, right? Let's do kawaii character. $100 pixels kind of pixelated. Are you using a brush? What are you using for this? Are you doing pixel art or are you doing digital art? This is my kawaii character. Just a bald guy. Okay. So if I was gonna, I mean, this is kind of pixely. You're kind of doing pixel art at this point. You're doing pixel art at 100 pixels. Not pixel art, using Procreate. Yeah, draw on a bigger canvas, I'd say. 100 pixels is still kind of pixely. You're doing like maybe we try like 1,000 pixels. I'd probably go for something like the kawaii style drawings that I think you're referencing something like this. Hold on. I think you're referencing something like this maybe. Like this kind of kawaii cute, this kind of quality smooth line work. There's a couple things you can do to achieve line work like this. There's a couple of different techniques to achieving line work like this, especially with line width like this. Firstly, you could go even easier and use just use a vector program, basically. A vector program, something like Illustrator. The bigger size doesn't look great when scanned down for the game. Okay, well, I guess if it doesn't look pixelated in whatever program you're using, in Procreate, then I mean the tips should apply. I mean, let's just try anti-aliasing. I mean, that probably looks fine. I mean, it's still going to look pixelated, right? 100 pixels just going to look pixelated. Yeah, that will always just look pixelated to me. But I mean, the tips will apply. These tips, what I'm about to say, will apply depending on any size. I guess it'll just look a bit cleaner if the resolution is higher. So, firstly, you don't feel crazy now? No. No. Any small resolution like that, you're just going to get pixels. But firstly, what I would say is, to achieve a size like this, I even needs to be a little bit bigger actually. Change canvas size. I'd probably go minimum 1,000. Oops. Change image resolution. Because that's just going to look sick. So you can use vector brushes, right? And Illustrator for something like a 2D game, right? Illustrator or some sort of vector brush will give you the most control, because I'll just make one here. Clip Studio has vector brushes. Not all software has vector brushes. How do you do it again in this there? So I can draw a line, right? And let's say I get the line awfully wrong. Okay, it's off where I need it to be by quite a lot. With a vector brush, you can literally, I forget how to do this again in this. Someone asked about vector the other day. I think it was Waters. And I literally never, ever use this. So I always forget where it is. Give me a second. Like a million different brushes here. Where is it? Not there, not there, not there. Not there. Not there. Not there. Not there. Is it here? No. I'm gonna scroll. Not there. Here maybe. No. I have to Google it on it. One sec. Vector brush settings, Clip Studio. There we get vector brush, freely adjusting the line. I literally never use vector layers. If you're not going for pixel art, you probably, yeah, scaling down is not what you want either. Yeah, scaling down art. Oh no, scaling down is fine. It's scaling up which is a problem. So basically, with a vector, you can adjust the lines, is what I was trying to say here. So I can select this object. Now, this isn't what I want though. I mean, it kind of is. I can select the object and I can like move the lines, and that's going to help a lot with vectors. But if you're just ignoring vectors, right? Illustrator is the one to go for that because you can use a pen tool basically. You can use where is it? Pen tool. Do we have a pen tool in this? We do. I think it's in rubber, and I think it's in curve ruler. So basically, you can create like curves in Illustrator like this, for example, and create the exact shape. I'm going to do it badly because I can't be bothered. And then you can fill that shape. Selection from ruler, and then you can fill that shape, and it gives you the perfect line, basically. This isn't obviously the perfect line. Vector layers, are they useless? They're not useless. I just don't use them because I prefer to draw it by hand like this. You know? So the second art is, how do you... The second thing, if you want to draw it, how can you make it smooth? Firstly, a lot of brushes will have, if you look down the left here, some sort of stabilization, right? Procreate has it. Procreate has settings for stabilization. But one thing you want to make sure of is that you are, your settings are set up properly for your brush and your pen, right? Because there are different settings for your brush and your pressure, basically. If I go to, I can't really show you this. Where is it? File. I touched this once and then I've never touched it again. Basically, there's a drawing curve, right? And it depends on how hard or how soft you grip the pen, right? But this is what the my drawing curve looks like, and it's because it actually used to look more like that, but it's because that meant that the curve is harder, so I'd have to push harder to get a line variation. But now I've made it softer because I don't want carpal tunnel problems, basically. So you have to mess with that and make sure you've got something which is comfortable, and also just play with stabilization as well. Like, you don't have to if I put stabilization on 0, right, and I try to draw it, I might be able to get it eventually, yeah, but actually that's just because I've done it for years. But if I try to do like a longer line like this, there's no way I'm going to be able to draw. I mean, I just nearly did it first time there, but there's no way I'm going to be able to draw this freely without like really messing with it and like going in and curving it and sculpting it and, you know, trying to get it right. And the reason that sounds different here, the reason that's different, the reason it's okay, I think, to use stabilization is because if you think about inking on a page, like on a piece of paper, right? If you ink traditionally on a piece of paper, you don't just have the pen, you have the pen on the paper, and that's given you some friction, right? And it's not a smooth surface. Like, it's kind of difficult on Procreate because you might be drawing on a purely glass surface, yeah? And if you're drawing on a purely glass surface, it's going to feel very, very smooth. So some sort of stabilization for a digital tool, yeah, is what you want. And some sort of stabilization, or you can get, I know a lot of artists who use Procreate, myself included, use a paper-like texture for their tablet. And the paper-like texture, basically, it will change the surface from being like glass to being like paper. The only downside to that is you are essentially it will destroy your nibs. It'll destroy your pen nibs very quickly. But it does feel much more like paper, and you'll feel like you have way more control and you can draw more slowly. But stabilization, drawing with the right brush settings, because brushes will have specific settings. Your pen will have specific settings as well. Check those out. Check out some tutorials on those so you understand them, and so you're not just, you know, you're not just winging it, right? Because you do have to understand how the pressure works with your system and how the brush pressure works. If you can do that, you'll go, oh, I want it to be like a softer nib, harder nib. I want to be able to push longer. Like there's this brush, right? If I push this brush down, this is the amount of line variation that I get with that. Whereas if you look at the mapping pen, this is the amount of variation I can get with the mapping pen. See how much, like, you can go real thick to thin there. And it really depends on you, you know, it really depends on you and what you're trying to achieve. Like, this is the pen that I use the most, which is some Japanese created pen. I love the texture, basically. Paper like and stabilization do help. I'm going to check brush settings too. Thank you. And also, I think, Christy Bear, it's just practice as well. Like everything else, it's just practice. it's just going to take some time. Like, I've been inking for, it's called inking, right? I've been inking for years, and it's something that, like, it's one of my favorite processes. I've mentioned this in some 2D drone videos, but it's one of my favorite art processes ever, because it's just so satisfying to be able to ink something and for it to feel like it just feels good to draw like that, you know? But it's practice, you know? There's some people who are insane. Do you mean calligraphy pen? Some people use calligraphy pens for it, but I mean like inking, like comic book inking is what I'm referring to. Do you adjust mouse DPI when you're drawing like that? I don't use a mouse. I use a pen and a tablet. I don't need to change any. I don't need to change any DPI. I wouldn't recommend digital art without a tablet, personally. You can do it, because if I was going to use a mouse for this is what I would do, yeah? I'd take my mouse and I'd use the polyline tool. And then I'd go like this. Not the polyline tool, sorry. I'd use the curve ruler, which is the... Like, I'd use a curve ruler, and then... Hold on. I don't know how to use the curve ruler in this. Do something like this. If I was going to do it with a mouse, I would do like this, right? Easier in Photoshop. I'd do it in this sense. But this is what Illustrator does, basically. You can create graphics that look like this in Illustrator. It's just going to take you a while, but your lines will be perfect. You know? See that? Like, that was all done with mouse. That line right there was all done with the mouse. And that's basically how Illustrator works. You can use a mouse for that. You know? You can use a mouse for that if you really, really want to. And that's perfectly valid. Plus, if you do it in vector, it will be perfect. It'll be the perfect line. What tablet do you use? I use a Intuos Medium. I got it secondhand for about £10. It doesn't have a screen on it. I used to use a Cintiq, right? I used to use a Cintiq 13 HD, and that had a screen on it, and I would draw basically directly on the screen. But that gave me back problems and carpal tunnel problems from drawing on it every day for 8+ hours for work. And it broke one day, right? I was using it for work, and it broke one day because I have a standing desk as well, and I snapped the cable on it when I was changing from standing to sitting. And I fixed the cable since, but because I was working, I needed to get a replacement tablet really quickly. So I ended up getting the Intuos because it was cheap. It was £10 on Facebook Marketplace. And I just love it. Like, my first tablet was one without a screen as well. And basically, I look at the computer. And I just love the way it feels, because not only is it super comfortable because I'm looking at the screen, yeah? I'm looking at this screen, the monitor in front of me. I'm not looking down. I'm not bent over. I'm not like, my posture is way better. And I don't get carpal tunnel anymore, and it just feels great. And another problem with these type of tablets is color calibration. this monitor isn't going to look the same as this monitor. And if it's not color calibrated properly, if you don't have the professional tool to adjust it and calibrate it, that can be really annoying, especially if you're working on like client stuff. Do you feel the disconnect? There is a disconnect, definitely. It's definitely easier to draw on a screen tablet because it's more like drawing on a piece of paper. However, you can get used to drawing on one of these and it feels no different. You know, like I'm so used to drawing on this now that like this feels better than a lot of drawing stuff. You know, this is just me drawing here. Use your intros with sprite. No, I basically, if I'm doing pixel art, I'll use a mouse. If I'm doing pixel art, I'll use a mouse. You can get used to drawing on this. I'd recommend if anyone wants to go for a tablet like this, where it's just it's not a screen-based tablet. If anyone wants to go with a tablet like that, I'd recommend just replace your mouse with it. Like don't use a mouse at all and just use this and get used to like clicking around and getting used to the screen space, and that's going to build up your dexterity, your muscle memory with your hand and the screen. That disconnect you were talking about, that's going to get rid of that quicker. But yeah, anyway, that's that question answered. It's also a muscle. If I don't ink for a while, it takes me a bit to get back into it and get them. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, like warm-ups. I always do a warm-up before I do any work. Before I do any drawing work, I'll do a warm-up. And usually my warm-up is just like getting used to the pen pressure again, drawing basic shapes, and drawing dot to dot, you know, because I'll mess it up. See, that wasn't a very good dot to dot. When I can get the dot to dot consistently, I'll move on, you know, and then I'll start to do like 2D shapes, 3D shapes and stuff. And then I might do like a little character sketch. Might do like a little face doodle like this with enough in it so that I can like ink on top of it, right? And I'll just try and get this feeling right with my inking. I might even edit it a bit to how I want it to be, you know, until I'm warm, basically, until I'm ready to go. But I'd always do warm-ups. And when I worked at a studio once where basically the first 10 minutes of the day everyone was just warming up, basically. Because I think that some days when, I don't know about you, Don, but like some days when I go to draw, it just feels like I've never drawn ever. But a warm-up helps like mitigate that, at least for me. Right. Next piece. I think we'll call this the last piece because it's almost 2 hours. I think we'll call it there. Let's have a look. Testing out a slightly higher res character sprite. Any thoughts? I was somewhat inspired by the sprites from Darkstalkers and decided to make a sprite with a similar resolution. Although this one is a bit smaller. While I've never played Darkstalkers, I can't speak today. Darkstalkers, and I'm not super attached to designs from there, I do enjoy the designs and the detail you can get away with larger sprites. I decided to try out a new shading style, which I like more than the traditional dithering, but would like to see some opinions for. I also picked this palette a bit spontaneously, so I'd like to know how effective the colors really are. Finally, I want some opinions on the overall character design. Character is inspired by Naga from various Asian mythologies. I admittedly didn't think too hard about the design, but I still like it, so if anyone has any thoughts or ideas, I'm open to that as well. Tail looks flat because it's mostly solid color. Maybe we could try bringing a few spots. I agree with that. That's the first thing that popped out to me, was the front of the tail looking a little flat. I do like the dithering style though as well. I like the dithering style. I like the character design. I don't actually have any problems with those. I think they look really cool. And I actually really think the shading, the best shading on this is this piece here, is the back of the tail. Like that looks really, really good. I think if you could continue this throughout, like this sort of shading throughout, that's going to help it make it look really 3D, because it's just simple fundamental of shaded that, you know what I mean? It's got a highlight, mid-tone, dark. There you go. Looks 3D. And I think if you can continue that throughout, it's going to look more 3D. Because this dithering style, it's cool, but it doesn't follow the curvature of the thing as much like it does with this. Like this object here has sort of the curves in it with the shading that's in it, you know? And that makes it look 3D. Whereas the tail it looks flat because you've essentially just got one big green block here, and then you've got green lines coming off the side of it, and that's going to look flat, right? So maybe it would help instead to just give it some shade, like a big front block of green as well. Yeah, front block of green. We might do a bit of bottom bit if we want some bounce light. We could even do a bit there if you want to bounce light there, but I'd probably just reserve that for shadow as well. And then you can go in, and I'll probably push this all into shadow as well, just because it's a bit more in the background, you know, and I don't want it to be too, I don't want it to take up too much of that space. And then you can start to use that dithering style that you were talking about. That new style. I can't remember. It's like the light into dark or something. I think that's where you're going, like light into dark with it. But if you do that, can you see now how you have way more form? And that's because rather than thinking about the dithering first, think about the form of the character first. Yeah. So you're getting across that 3D style, and you're still using the new dithering. Yeah. It's essentially painting. It's just painting. That's all it is. That's all pixel art is. That's all art is. Every art style ever is just painting. It's the same thing. You block out the major forms. Block out the major forms. And then worry about the intricacies of the patterns and details. And that's the same with literally everything that you will ever paint ever. You know? And I hope you can notice, maybe do a little bit more dark under here as well. Just to really push that a bit more. I hope you can notice just how you go from something that looks 2D and flat to something 3D. Now, that is only if you want to go with that style. There's nothing wrong with having something look 2D flat if that is the style that you're going for. Let me just say that. But if you want it to look like not just a green blob, because like I say, this looks fantastic in terms of depth and form, but the rest of it doesn't really follow. So it's like, what are you trying to go for? Maybe you could flatten this out if you didn't want it to take too much of the appeal away from the rest of the design. But if not, then you can go into just a simple light, mid-tone, dark if you want to. And if you don't, yeah, and if you don't want to animate it, animating it would be an absolute nightmare. Definitely would be. But yeah, I think everything in terms of like shading and stuff, it's just that. If you can do mid-tone, shadow, highlight, try and think about the form of the piece. So you might be wondering, how did I do that? How did I just know exactly where to put this highlight, basically? How did I know how to do that? Well, the answer is basic shapes. As always. The answer is basic shapes, yeah? If you have a sphere object, this isn't the sphere right now, this is a circle. If I want to turn this into a sphere, I just have to think about it having a 3D like wireframe almost, yeah? I just have to think about it having a curve almost, you know? Having curves. And if you ever see a 3D object, like from Blender, you know, basic wireframe 3D object, notice how already it looks 3D just with the wireframe. And then all you have to do on top of that is shade it like you would shade a normal object, you know? Shade it like you would shade a normal sphere in this case. And if you don't know how to shade a normal sphere, that's the next thing you look at, right? How do you shade basic shapes? And that's all I did. Literally, that one thing is all I did to this entire body, right? So I took this shape, yeah, okay? Took this shape and I thought, right, what is the form most likely on this? And in my mind, because when I first started doing this, I would draw the wireframe. But in my mind, I've gone, okay, it probably looks something like this. This is probably like quite big because the hips are there. And it probably starts to go a little bit like this, you know, and like wrap around. And it wraps and it wraps and it wraps and it wraps until you get the bottom of the shape there. And there's my wireframe, you know. And how do you practice doing that? How do you practice taking something which is flat and adding a wireframe to it? Well, That's when the warm-up is useful from before. This is a literally scribbling thing that you can do to help you understand forward and backwards, right? Look at this. If I do this and it gets bigger, that looks like it's coming towards you, doesn't it? That looks like it's coming towards you. Same thing if you do this. Draw smaller squiggles. Maybe change the direction a little bit. All of a sudden, it looks like 3D in 2D space. You know what I mean? And that's just a simple squiggle. That's a simple exercise that you can do to imagine what 3D looks like in 2D space. So if you take that and you draw a line around it, yeah? Now you have the contour lines of that shape. You see what I mean? So if we take a random cylinder, the first thing to do is a cylinder, right? If I draw two lines like this, two lines at the top. If the lines that I put in this are like this, they're like smiles, right? And let's just do that for the top as well and for the bottom. Notice how that looks different from if you take two and then go upwards now. What's the difference here? The difference is the perspective that we're looking at. Now, this is funny because every single thing is made up of basic shapes. So if we have a circular body and I want to put in a cylinder, there's my two lines, then just try different directions until you get the one that works. So this hand on the left is pushing away from the body. Now, I know it's like that. I know the line is like that. There is my 3D shape. That it is literally as simple as that. I'm going to draw a basic cylinder, but which way do I want it to go? Which way does it need to face? You know, where is the 3D in here? Well, I know it's probably going to be something like that. And that makes me know that the bottom of the face is there, the top of the face is there, top of the face is there. And now if I want to shade this, it's very, very simple. Shade that side, light this side, mid-tone. There you go. You now have a 3D shape in a 3D space on a 2D page. And it really is as simple as that. It literally all is that simple. It's just about doing that to the minute level. How you break that down, you can go right in there. You know, you can go right in there and do the exact same thing for the small details. There's the outside line. There's the curve. How do we shade it? There's the shadow. There's the outside. There is the mid-tone. You know what I mean? It's like it's like a hack, right? But that's literally just how you draw shapes. And those are some good exercises for doing that. You should do a tutorial on your YouTube for that. Yeah, probably will. Probably will. That's a good idea. What should I call it? How to draw anything. I'll probably use this as an example as well. If you don't mind. Because this is a really cool piece. It's a really cool piece. And that's how you make something look a little bit more 3D. Ba-ba-bum-bum, like that. You know? So that's exactly what I did. I went, okay, these are the contour lines. It's going to wrap this way. Wrap. And notice how here it starts to change direction. And why does it change direction? Why does it change direction? It's because the perspective changes. We're no longer looking at something on top. It's starting to wrap around. And that's something you'll start to understand the more you practice that, you know? The more you practice it, the more you do it, you'll be able to see that, you know? You'll be able to see that. There you go. And that's how you start to draw and you shade and blah, blah, blah. And that's how you make something look more 3D. But other than that, I think you have an excellent character design here. I think it's really cool. I think you've done a great job. I love the fact, personally, I love the fact that you are experimenting with different dithering styles. Like, that's really cool to see. I like that you're not just sticking to somebody's set guidelines of you should dither like this. And even what I'm saying right now, about shading. You don't have to shade like that. That's just if you want it to appear more 3D. There's nothing wrong with having this, you know, nothing wrong with doing this, nothing wrong. You're trying different things. You've got your own style. That's really cool. Really cool to see. I appreciate you sharing that with us. But folks, boom, super stylish colors. Yeah, I didn't even mention the colors. Look at this. Bing! Look at the gold. I mentioned gold last week on last week's Feedback Friday and how difficult that is. You have nailed it. This looks gold to me. You know what I mean? It's funny, like I don't even mention the things that work well sometimes, but that works really well. So well done. Also, boobies. Right, let's end it there, folks. Well done. Talaba, you're jumping in just as we've finished. However, Talaba, I would recommend watching the last 10 minutes again, because I think that was probably the most valuable. Like I'm definitely going to make a video about that, don't get me wrong, but that was, I think, something that unlocked in my brain as being very valuable. Like to me, that's just like, this is why I love doing Feedback Friday, because I don't know what is like useful for you guys. You know what I mean? There are so many like little tidbits of information I've picked up over the years of being an artist that I've learned, and at some point it was useful for me and is still useful to me, but I just don't know anymore. So like coming to see these feedback that you have or feedback that you need, it like shocks in my brain, like, oh, that's actually really cool. I should make a video on that. I probably will. Val Sprites coming in just at the end as well. Well, the video will be live on YouTube. All of this will be live on YouTube, not live. It will be able, you can watch it, basically. You can watch this on YouTube at any time, and I appreciate it if you do. Thanks for sharing your work this week, folks. I'll be back next Friday for some more Feedback Friday. And let's learn together. Let's help each other out. Make sure you post your work in the Discord. If you're not in, join the Discord, subscribe on YouTube, whatever. Appreciate you all hanging out. It's all useful, but you're great at curating the best points. Yeah, I think I'll make some videos on that as well. I think it's going to be useful. Thanks for hanging out, folks. Have a great rest of your night. Talaba, appreciate you jumping in as well. Also, Valsprite, thanks for jumping in. Pudnik, Heath the Coder, Dom2D, Nevis. I can't pronounce the Russian one, but it looks like an A to me, so I'm going to call you A. Arseni, thanks for hanging out. Anyone that was lurking, appreciate you. Have a good one. Goodbye. Bazoli, Rudin Sprites. Anyone that I've missed, I apologize. All the lurkers, whatever. Thank you so much for hanging out and lurking. Goodbye. Peace. Have a great weekend, everyone. Yep, you too, Dom. Thank you. Goodbye.